Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle, and this is That Live Friday Night Show. And for those of you who've been on here for a while, you basically know that we try and do something on Friday nights where we take some topics, take something light normally, but we've gotten to the point where we've gotten some heavy topics. So this is going to be one of those nights as well. And so in the past, we've had Kira Bowlby on several times, and We're going to do something next week as well. I'll announce that pretty soon. And I'm pretty excited about that one. I'll talk to you about that in a later time. But tonight it's just going to be me. My other guest host couldn't do it, so she decided to back out, which is fine because I was really inspired today because I ended up seeing not the Biden speech. I saw the response from Senator Tim Scott he's from South Carolina. And so I essentially started getting busy because before I wasn't really doing much today. So I decided, you know what, I really need to do something about this. And this is also in response to a comment that was on one of my videos this week, where they said, basically, why don't you respond to the reaction that Tim Scott was getting from the left and them essentially calling him all kinds of names, the typical stuff, you know, when you're a Black conservative, they call you all kinds of names. And I said, okay, that's fine. So I ended up thinking about it. And then when I actually saw the address that he did, which was amazing, I'll get into that in a second. And because before I wasn't really much of a fan of Tim Scott. I want to be clear about that. I'm still not totally sold on him, but I think what he did was fantastic. And so I ended up doing a video today. Let me see if I got some comments here. See before I go too far ahead. He did kill it, Mark. Tim Scott did kill it. Other good news, they called him Uncle Tom, further exposing themselves as racist. Yeah, exactly. So yes, so let me thank my sponsors who are scrolling below. You guys make this happen. Thank you so much. If you're interested in helping out, there's a join button on the YouTube page. You can do that, and you can become a sponsor, supporter of this channel. What that really gets you is extra stuff, some icons, and some other things as well, extra footage. I do a members only live feed every week, which is very informal. I'm usually in my pajamas. So, I mean, there's no green screen behind me. It's just totally me raw talking about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to grow and topics we're trying to do. So it's basically for people who want to plug in. So those are the people you see scrolling below. Thank you guys so much for that. And so I am going to go back into what I was saying here. And so and I'll put this on the screen here, what Mark was saying. He was basically saying that Tim Scott absolutely killed it, which he did, and that he was called an Uncle Tom, which I am going to get into in a second. Because for me, there is so much here, and what he said was very, very good. And I think what he was able to do was he was able to refashion the argument. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, so let me just get to what I want to talk about real quickly. I basically want to talk about Tim Scott and essentially what was going down there. And because he was basically talking about the speech in general. And then I want to get into some of the negative criticisms that he was getting from Twitter and from other people like Joy Bear, I believe, from The View. And I want to talk about why this is. Okay, I kind of want to break this down because I think it came to me as a revelation today. And this may not be accurate, but I think it is. About what's going on and what the Democrats are trying to do, and all of a sudden it started to make sense. So I'm going to get into that. And then I'm going to show some slides here that I have set up of the various things that we saw. No, you're fine, Mark. You're fine. Yeah, you're fine. If you keep me on point, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. And I also want to just get into just about the two aspects that Tim Scott was able to do. And the second point was what Mark just brought up here, was that he basically exposed the liberals for what they are. And the first part of it is refashioning the argument of, well, getting into more of a civic nationalism. I'll go ahead and say it right now. All right, I'll get into that. And then I will wrap it up with some things about in terms of the overall civil rights movement and how the Democrats are still trying to keep their throats down on the heels of Black people. So I'm going to try and go through this, and I may ramble a little bit, but a lot of this is from my own memory. A lot of it's also on videos that I've done before. And for the research that I've done, if you go to our membership page, it's all free. And we have PDF files for the research that we do That way, when I get knuckleheads that tell me that I'm not right, I can just point them to that and they can research themselves. So anyway, all right, so let's kick this thing off. And so the first thing I like to talk about essentially is the fact that I did a video just a minute ago, and it's up there now. It's live on the page. It's called The Racist Left, right? It's called The Racist Left. And essentially what I'm trying to say here is how the left really inherently, even almost by design of their worldview, is inherently, I'd say, elitist at the very least. And that leads into other things too. It leads into your perspective of people, where their place is in humanity. If you want to delve into Darwin and his original book, the title of this book was actually, it's a long title, but it's actually, the end of it was in the preservation of favored races. So there's almost as if he almost looked at his humans as animals, and that there are other levels of humans that are above other levels of humans. And that brought forth other types of ideologies with humanism, socialism, with obviously with Stalin, obviously with Hitler, obviously with Pol Pot. Those mentalities, they thought they were helping the world by exterminating the lesser people. So I'm not trying to categorize all leftists in that category. But when you have a humanistic landscape mindset, you're automatically no longer thinking that you're created in God's image. And there can be a very dangerous worldview. And that's what I think that's what happens. I think the liberals, they get so into themselves, they get so into their place that they're so much better than everyone else that they almost expect us to behave in the ways that they want us to behave. And so that's what I'm getting at there. And you can read into that if you want. Now, I absolutely believe that that they, in some ways, have no clue what they're doing. But at the same time, I think a lot of them just totally shut up when they're called out on this stuff. And so I did a video here called Democrat Running for Congress Sends Picture of Klan Hood to Candace Owens. In this particular video, I was like, look, dude, I was like, all right, so, here you have a person running for Congress. You have Candace Owens, a Black woman who's obviously conservative. And she, I guess, tweeted back to him about something. And then he said, you must have dropped this, talking about a Klan hood, and showed a picture of it and put it out there on Twitter. And of course, this guy got reamed. I'm not sure if he's still running for Congress or not. But, and I will say that the cancel side of that did play out pretty well. But I think the fact that he even thought that he could do that and get away with it, I thought was pretty telling. And in that video, which is my point is, I said, look, Democrats and leftists can really say what they want when it comes to Black conservatives, really anybody really who doesn't believe in them. I mean, it doesn't really matter really. But they really, and I get this all the time. They say, well, Kyle, it's not just Black people. I get it. I understand that. I'm not trying to marginalize and say that Black people are any more special than anyone else. But in some ways they are, because of their voting base. Because and this is the kind of crux of my whole show tonight. Because Black people vote at such a high level within the Democrat Party, and because they rely so much on that vote, they need to keep that ratio at as high as possible, which is why every 4 years, they have to keep bringing in the race card. So after Biden allegedly won, now you have all these things going on with with officers going, just the narrative of cops killing Blacks has just gone through the roof now. But I will say one thing, one objection to that is, obviously we have the stats and the data to totally refute all of that. I did a 60-second spot on that, rattling off facts, basically refuting all that. But because they have that going on, and plus we have body cameras, there's more opportunity for the media to put forth more false narratives. Okay, I mean, the guy could be literally gunning down grandma in the street, shooting her, and then the cop shoots him, and they'll find a way to say, okay, well, he shouldn't have shot the granny. He only shot her 5 times. Come on, cop, could you at least, can you at least wait till you shoot her 6 times before you shot him? No matter what it is, it's always going to be a narrative for the criminals, and for the Black person who's the in the case that we're seeing are the alleged criminals. The ones that are, I'll say alleged. So And why is that? And that's what I'm going to talk about. And I think that is because, I'll get into that in a second. Well, I'll go and say it now before I forget. I think the main reason for that is, and this, again, haven't really fleshed this out yet. I think the main reason for that is this. President Trump got the highest percentage of the black minorities in general votes, I believe, for any Republican going back to maybe Truman, maybe even before. It's huge. He got huge numbers. And one of those demographics of that particular group he got was black women. He literally doubled his percentage of black women voting for him in 2020. Now, why is that important? It goes back to what I was saying, why black people, I think, are a little bit more important to Democrats, because they need them more. Whenever you have everyone, when you have all your eggs in one basket, you're over, what's the word we use in stocks? You're over leveraged, okay? And so you got to keep that as high as possible until you can get a replacement in there to kind of, mitigate any losses that you have. Well, they haven't really done that yet, because Latinos and Hispanics also are voting for Trump. So they're having to open the borders and let people in. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, but with black people and black women are the highest and the most loyal segment of the Democrat coalition. They vote at at one point at 98, 97% ratio. That's incredible. And if they're able to weed that off, where Trump was doing that, and then that gets worse, doubling it, maybe even doubling it next time, Democrats are in serious trouble, which is why they're doing other things, which was going on in Arizona, if you understand what I'm saying. They're trying to do whatever they can do to keep power. So, but the aspect in terms of legitimate voting, black women, they can't lose that. And so what I think is, here's my opinion. This is my opinion. All right. One of the highest, one of the most important issues for black women is police violence. Seeing their kids, their children gunned down in the street. No one wants to see people killed. All right. And I think if they can form a narrative that, like LeBron James has said in his tweet, that we are gunning down, that I'm paraphrasing here, I'm putting my own spin on this, that it's 11 o'clock, guys. All right, let's get our makeup on, let's get our face paint on, our Rambo, so we can go out and start hunting black people. If you believe that, there's no way in the world you're going to vote for a Republican. So they can try and get those votes back. Now, that's what I'm thinking is going on, and that will make a lot of sense. But again, that's all my opinion. But whether it's a crime of omission or a crime of commission, Democrats aren't complaining about it if that's what ends up happening. So let's check some comments here. I want to just talk straight. I want to get some comments before I get here and see if I get forward. I'm getting off subject here. I want to know. Let me see here. I agree on Hitler and Stalin, but their driving factor was fear and approval. Throw power and pride in there too. Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm not really a European historian. If you want to get into some Civil War history, particularly Gettysburg, which I do battleground tours in National Military Park in Gettysburg, I can really get authoritative. I can really get dogmatic in what I'm saying. I'm open to more suggestions here in this, but that's how I'm seeing it. I know if you look at Ernst Haeckel, the scientist, and I think it's a German, when he basically faked the embryos of humans into dogs to make it look like embryos had gill slits, so that could justify that there were inferior races. That sort of thing went forward, and so I know that that's what actually happened. He was actually proven to be false and was tried and whatever. But so that's where I'm coming from that standpoint. So thank you for that. All right, so where are we at here? So all right, so I talked about that, and let's get into a little bit about now. This is something that this isn't something that I came up with myself, but well, let's just skip that first. Let's go over to what happened with Miss Joy Behar. Okay, so essentially, all right. Let me just back up here. So my impressions of the actual speech that Tim Scott gave. All right. First of all, I didn't realize he was as articulate as he was. Now, he's a senator, so he's intelligent. I'm not trying to say he can't talk. I'm just saying he speaks in such a way that's very conversational, which I was really taken off by. I mean, he was really conversational. And even though it was a stump speech, and I know he probably had a teleprompter, there's one part of the speech he was actually able to pull back, hold his hand up, and like, hey, listen, and then get kind of real with you. And then at the same time, still move on to his talking points without missing a beat. I thought he ad-libbed. Maybe he did. Maybe he wasn't. But maybe he projected that. But in any event, he was able to do it, and it felt really conversational. And he was just fantastic. And he's a rock star in this party. In fact, the Republican Party has a ton of people on their bench that can run circles around just about any Democrat out there right now. So we have a bench to boot. All right. So anyway, that was the impression. And he basically was like, look, I know you thought Biden looked good. He seemed like a nice guy, right? And you may have thought his ideas were nice, but they were all wrong. And he goes in very respectful and talking points. He said, look, he basically said, I'm not going to be overly negative here. I'm just going to say what it is, say how we should come together. And that's my first point here, is the fact that he was bringing forth a new paradigm for race relations in this country. Because Democrats seem to think that they have a monopoly on the race issue. For many years, decades, they would say, we're the big tent party, okay? We're the party that has all the different ethnic groups, races, sexes, genders, sexes, and I'm trying to say sexual preferences, orientations, that's what I'm trying to say. And we're the ones, with the working class, middle class, all that stuff. And the Republicans are just the rich white people. That's what they would project. And to a lot of extent, that had some truth to it. Especially if you go back to the 70s, particularly the country club Republicans, where they basically were losing their minority vote, and they still had the numbers, and you still had a really good ground game. So they basically just, we don't need, we can still win this thing. And as the country started changing, then things start to change, and then you had, other efforts going out. And so, but then you have someone like Trump, okay, a populist, okay. And what I was saying, telling people all along, as I was doing stuff in the Republican Party, I could rattle off 10 things that I did in the Republican Party on national, state, and local level, running campaigns, all kind of stuff. All the things I was doing in that particular organization as I was helping, I kept seeing a lot of pushback in a lot of different areas. The Trumpian stuff that we see now, Making America Great, the populist, pragmatic approach to politics was not really embraced back then. There were a few people that tried to do it. Dare I say someone like maybe a Forbes, dare I say someone like maybe even like a Ross Perot. I'm not sure if they were really Trumpian, but even like, you had like Herman Cain, to a lesser extent, you have Newt Gingrich. That's a Huckabee already. Those guys were kind of middle of the road deal, but Trump came in and he had a whole nother game. And so he basically took it like, look, I'm a pragmatist. I'm going to do this thing, what's going to work. We're going to put America first. We're going to do what makes sense. We're going to do what's best for business, for the middle class, whatever. And next thing you know, the Democrats who hated him so much really destroyed their own party by pushing their narratives further and further to the left, because they've always thought, well, if we lose this election, it's because we weren't leftist enough. We weren't liberal enough. And so they put it into practice. And then you have people like AOC and the squad, those people, they had the loudest voice. They basically took Nancy Pelosi by the shirt collar and said, we're going to do this. Screw you. And Nancy, because they kept hitting Trump, they kept skirting further to the left. So it just was a natural progression because they didn't want to have infighting within their own party. And so what that did was it allowed the Republican Party to become that big tent party now. We are now that big tent party, legitimately. And, those 300 counties that were in the Midwest that were voting for Democrats for the past 35 years, all the way back to the caucus, and by a rate of about 30% every election, to suddenly flip in one election year, in one cycle, to vote for a Republican at the opposite range, a 60-point swing, scared the living crap. I'm telling you, I'm sorry for that word, but it scared the living mess out of the Democrats. It just did. In 2020, 2016, it just scared the mess out of them. And so they knew they were in trouble. And so if you look at 2020, the election was pretty much lost across the board for Democrats, all across the board. Dare I say, even the presidency, but we won't talk about that. And so that is what I want to bring up here. And that's what Trump and the Republican Party has kind of moved to. And this graphic here, I'm still studying it, so I don't know much about this, but it's brought up to me before, and it's called civic nationalists. Okay, it's up here in the upper right-hand corner. And the definition of this, well, it's essentially Trumpism. It's basically, we come together as a country based on ideas and values, and that's what makes us Americans. So you see to the left, you have white nationalists, black nationalists. That would be like your Nation of Islam and so forth. And you have people in third quarter or whatever, multi-ethnic. Those are not the same. The civic nationalists are basically what we are really in our foundation. That, because like I had someone say on my wall, on my video, one of my videos this week, they said, it was from a year ago. I think I'm going back and looking at all my comments, trying to respond to all the comments, even going back to a year. So it's taken me several months to do this. I got to one about a year ago, and some guy was derogatory and said, "Hey, Kyle, Hispanic community is going to be the majority, whatever, ha ha ha, whatever." Like I care about that. I don't care about that. As long as they love this country, I don't care what your color is. That's not the point. The point is, do you love America? Do you embrace America's ideas? Do you believe in the three aspects that are on our money? Liberty, which means basically you can do whatever you want as long as you're hurting anybody else. In God we trust, our rights come from God. And il pluribus unum, which means out of one many, where we all come together as a melting pot under one idea. And in my video, Why is America Great? It's because where America's great is because of that idea. And so that's what civic nationalism is. If I'm saying that wrong or whatever, I will retract that. But from what I've been reading, that's exactly what's going on. And that's the new paradigm. Whereas they want to say multinationalism or multiculturalism, we want to say melting pot. We want to say come together under that one il pluribus unum. And that's what Tim Scott was able to really put forth and bring home very, very well. The statement that I like he said the most, I got some comments here. I'm gonna stop this comment after this. I'm gonna get to these comments. One comment I liked about what he did and he just speaks so smooth, dude. He's so smooth. I'm like, dude, you got it going on, man. You really impressed me. Anyway, he was like, he rattled off demographics. And of course, speechwriters know how to pull things together. You got to get this person here to get this person here to get people feeling. And then he said at the end, he was like, I think he said urban neighborhoods as well as members of law enforcement. He put them contiguous to each other in the sentence. And I thought that was powerful. He said, look, we're all in this together. We're all Americans and so forth. And that to me was awesome. And let me ask some comments here, but before I do that, one more thing I got to think before I forget. And that's dealing with, I learned this today as well, when it comes to nationalism, and civic nationalism. That the Civil War ended 1865, and the aftermath of that was horrendous. It was terrible for this country. It was just really, really, there was still infighting and skirmishes going on left and right. But baseball was still popular. They were playing baseball in the Civil War. They were. It was just being invented. They weren't quite sure how it got invented, but there's some controversy there. But anyway, so they're playing this game called baseball, whatever. And then when the war's over, the National League formed because they wanted to bring this country together. And that was kind of the purpose of it. National sports was designed to bring people together, which is why staying for the national anthem and playing the national anthem does two things. One, from an economic standpoint, gets people in a good mood so they can go buy popcorn and drinks and beer. And number two, it unites us under one cause so that we can actually buy that popcorn and beer and so forth. So it's something that we all can agree on, all feel good, we're all in a good mood, and that's the tradition comes from. So anyway, let me read some comments here. See if I screwed up anywhere. I'm sure I did somewhere. Let me see. Oh, a lot of comments. Okay, let's go through these comments. All right, let me read these. Yeah, the Democrats have all of it, Kyle, you're right, including the KKK and Antifa, BLM, slavery, Jim Crow, poll taxes, segregation, massive lynchings, abortion. Well, not this. Abortion isn't really. That's not really a Democrat thing. It's just they really sponsor it really heavily. So. Let's see. Thank you for that, Mark. That's a good job. Yeah, the Dems do it all. One-stop shop of destruction. So Ravens fan, I'm a Gatesburg enthusiast too. Love to hear analysis of the first day action, especially. I love the first day's action. Actually, the first day's action is one of my favorite. Actually, it really is because it goes. I'm kind of geeking out here, guys. I'm sorry. It basically it's a race. It's a race to see who gets there first, right? I mean. It's a race who gets here first, and the first day they get flanked off on later in the afternoon. They get flanked, not from McPherson's Ridge, but on the I'm forgetting what the spots now. But yeah, it was a really fascinating deal there. I want to say Iverson's brigade was the one that really got taken out toward the latter end of the day, and you had. Of course, the Chambersburg's Pike coming down. Then you had the skirmishes building up, and then you had Iverson gets captured. It's just a really fascinating escalation of battle there. So yeah, Ravens fans, let's get together and we can talk about it. In fact, I have a Facebook group called Suggs Gatesburg's Tour. You can go check it out, and I have actually give tours there. You can schedule them there as one. I'll probably be doing several this year as well. So okay, my favorite LBG is Troy Harmon. I agree. Tim Scott is next level articulate. What is my favorite LBG? What is that? I'm not familiar with that. Yeah, maybe you have to tell me about what that is. Troy Harmon. I'm not familiar with him. Okay. I agree that Tim Scott is next level architect in game. Yes, he is. Okay. Ravens fans, awesome. Let me see here. Kyle, by that table, I'm on the left. Conspiracy still hoping. Yeah, I can't sign up on that chart, guys. I really can't. I can't sign up on that chart. I have no idea what that chart means. I mean, it seemed to make sense to me, but from the definition I read on Wikipedia, and this is also from other people that are conservatives that I got this from, so I'm not making this up myself. So, yeah. So, I mean, the thing about conspiracy is this, dude. I mean, if you have two people in a room together, right, and you plan something, is that really a conspiracy? I think it gets a bad rep. It just means something that's being done that's not made public, right? And I don't know. I mean, if when we were at, let's say, I'll give you an example. When we were at the National Convention for Young Republicans in Indianapolis, I think this was in 2000. Let's see, Bush came in 2004, and Obama came in 2008. So I think it was 2009. I think it was off the election. I think yeah. So anyway, it was in Indianapolis, and there was a split within the YRs. I won't get into all that. If you Google that, you'll find out for yourself and get all the seedy details of that. But anyway, there's two factions, right? Both the people running for president were named Rachel. I was for one Rachel and the other Rachel. But there was a lot of planning for that because they were looking through the parliamentarian procedures of how we can get certain motions on the floor, what it would take. We would talk to the whip, who was the person who was in charge of getting people to vote the right way. It was very strategic, and it was a conspiracy. It was a conspiracy to take over the convention because we didn't think we had the votes. And so through parliamentary procedures and through, it's all legal, it's all legal. And if they don't know the rules, it's not our fault. And but that's a conspiracy. So is that that's not what I don't think that's you can lump all that into one thing. So, and I sorry about that. Sorry to ramble there, but I wanted to let you know that I'm not signing off on that graph. But yeah, Ivanka Trump, she's pretty cool. All right, all you have to say as nationalists, put your country and your people first, ask help others second. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like that civic nationalist because it just seemed cool. But and when I found out that was a real term, Oh, okay, maybe I can use it. Okay. Oh, Kira's on. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss you the first time, Kira? I'm sorry. Because someone else said he killed it. Okay, that's two people said that. So Mark said he killed it, and then Kira said he killed it. Okay. Yes, he did. How are you doing, Kira? Hope you're doing well tonight. And hope when next week we're going to do something with a guy who's a YouTuber. His name is Angel Kiraz. He's a guy up in New York. Awesome dude. And Kira, by the way, did a video last week on gun control. And because of all the stuff that's going on, just haven't had time to really address it in a proper fashion. So we're going to put together a forum, okay? And it's going to be Kira, myself, and Angel. And we may get another person on there as well. And we're going to discuss gun control. And so I'm trying to formulate it. And I believe we're going to do it in a tape setting. That way we can kind of get graphics and have less problems with technical difficulties. I mean, she's West Coast, he's East Coast. So I'm also East Coast, East Coast, South Coast. So we'll put it out there, and hopefully it'll be out there. Hopefully we're going to film Friday, and we'll probably put it out there by Wednesday of next week. So there probably won't be a Friday show next week because we'll be filming that. But I'll tell you what, if any of you guys want to actually watch the taping of it, maybe we can do that. What you can do is I can maybe make that available. You know, we won't be public, but you'll be able to actually watch us record it. If you want to do that, maybe I can make that happen. But it will be a limited number because my software only allows like a certain number of people to actually watch it. But that's not true. That's not true. I think I have an unlimited number if you tell me. I give you the invite. You just can't be on the screen, which none of us should be on the screen anyway. So yeah, so if you want to do it, send me a link, and when we record that, we'll have you in there as well. And hope you don't mind that, Kira, by the way. If that's a problem. If that's a problem with Kira and Angel, we won't do it. I mean, I have to have their buy-in. I'm not going to just do this without telling them. But if they're okay with it, then we'll go ahead and do that. So anyway, let me keep going. Yep. Okay. Can't wait for this week. Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait. It's going to be fun. I have something really special. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a game show setting or not, but it should be cool. Thanks, Mark. And you guys can read yourselves in here as well. Bunch of comments in here. Okay, here we go. This is Gettysburg, guys. Sorry, I'm going to go tangent here. That's the first day, most seat of the pants, judgment and generalship. Licensed battlefield guide. Oh, of course. Yes. That guy is awesome. Yes, because I watch all those guys on the Gettysburg. I watch pretty much every single one of the Gettysburg. Not so much all the walking tours because those are kind of long. All the sanctioned tours I watch pretty much at least a couple times. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's very good. I even have the virtual tour. You can on the CD and you can play it, and it's basically too. All right. Yeah, Angel's awesome. He's a cool dude, man. He's a real cool dude. He's a cool dude. Let's see. Keep going here. Yeah, man, she needs all the support she can get, man. So go and subscribe to her channel, follow her on Instagram, and where else are you on? I think you're mainly those two places, and also on Facebook as well. If you haven't gotten banned yet, I think you may have. Okay, sorry to be slow here, guys. I want to make sure I get all these comments because without you guys, this show is pointless. So there's no point in me talking if no one's here. Oh yeah, that would be awesome, Kira. So I didn't watch the speech, right? And Kira, I saw your post where you said that we need to be responsible and watch other people's sides. I just couldn't do that. I just could not. I don't know if it's the optics of watching, Kamala and what's her name, the secretary or Speaker of the House. I know her name. I'm just saying Pelosi behind them, the mask, and everyone in the room being vaccinated, but yet they're still all double masked up. It's like, come on, man. Seriously, are we really going there with this optics? I mean, you're trying to talk positivity. You're trying to say, hey, we're doing great, but yet you're all wearing masks, look like it's like The Walking Dead out there, right? So I just couldn't. Maybe I can listen to it. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can just listen to it and not watch it. Maybe that's my problem. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your video there, Kira. I can't wait for that one. And by the way, I can't wait for your dad to get off at jail time so we can kind of hook up and finally talk on Facebook. If you guys caught last week, her dad's on Facebook jail. So yeah, when you get out, Brian, it's on. Los Angeles. You know what? We drove through New Mexico, man. It's a beautiful state. It really is. And that whole Western tour, driving from the East Coast to out there. We went to Arizona. Took us about 2 weeks to do it. It was great. I love New Mexico. And we drove across the city. The country. And we literally saw 2 Biden signs the entire time. Now, granted, we're going through red territory. I get it. And the two Biden signs we saw were, I believe, one was in Oklahoma at a gas station near the hood. And another one was in North Carolina. It was like on our way out. So yeah, so it was a great. I mean, the love of this president that we have, I think we still have, is just incredible. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming up in 2022 and beyond. So looks like Kira's got buy-in for the what do you call it when you're in college and you audit a class? You have to audit it. Okay, let's keep going here. And I may stop here at some point to keep going, but if you guys can read in the comments inside here, you can read it themselves. I at least want to give some love to people here. That's a picture speaker. Sorry. Oh my gosh, that's great. Oh man. Have you guys seen the meme that has Thanos imposed on Pelosi and it says we need term limits? And her eyes are all shrunken in. Oh my gosh. It's like, oh gosh. The internet consistently wins. I think the internet's pretty much always won. Oh yeah, Kira. Yeah. Or since we're on this, what about that? Since some other countries, what about that? I guess it was that world conference call they had, and every major world leader was there. And everybody had a mask on, except. Everyone didn't have a mask on except Biden. He's just looking at me like, he's like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, today he said, or yesterday he said, I wear a mask because it's patriotic. And I guess it ties into what we're talking about tonight, right? It talks about what their thought of what America is. He also said, I believe, let's talk about this real quickly. I did hear this clip where he basically said that the government is we the people. I mean, what the hell? So obviously, if you think the government is we the people, then yes, wearing a mask is patriotic because you're coming from that ass backwards mentality. I think I've said 3 cuss words my entire time on this channel. That's the 3rd one I've said. That's a legitimate one. But I think I think it's totally in terms of a donkey. Yeah, so I guess it's not really a cuss word because they're asses, they're donkeys, they're what they are. But it fits, They think so backwards to what this country was founded on. The 1619 Project, this what's it called? The theory or race baiting theory, what it's called. I mean, I forget what it's called. I don't want to know, but you can help me out. It's that whatever they're calling it, critical race-based theory, whatever the heck it is. Anyway, they're just trying to reinvent because their ideas suck. Right? Their ideas suck. They can't win in the playing field of ideas, so they have to change the playing field. They got to change the goal. So anyway, I'm really, really getting off track here, but that's fine. That's fine. Let me see here. Let me see here. I'm getting. Okay, it's called Suggs Gettysburg Tours. Just my last name, Gettysburg Tours, on Facebook. You should find it. Yeah, you have a good time. And basically, I'm not a licensed tour guide. I don't charge for my tours, but it's for people. My mission statement or my whatever is someone who's never gone or gone, it's been a long time ago. So those people I can handle. If you're experienced and you know all the regiments and battalions and you know all of that, we can have a good time, and I can tell you intricate levels of everything. Because essentially what I do is when I have a tour, I cram for 2 weeks. Because I forget a lot of stuff. I'm not doing this to speed. I learn more stuff, and I go out there, have a good time. I do a Google Earth presentation. So basically, your tour is customized, and essentially, if you want to do the cemetery, or do you want to just do like the walking tours, or do you want to do like whatever? We can do that. Customize what you want to see, and I cram on that, and then we just we have a good time. Let me just keep going here. Yeah, 1619 project. That's correct. Thank you. Yeah, Biden's scary. He's a scary dude, man. We for his wife. That was so sweet. That was a sweet thing for him to do. I'm glad he didn't blow her in her face. Yeah, they're definitely shadow banning her. Subscribe, click the bell. What's going to have to happen on Ravens fan is the way to grow our channels is through collaboration. Okay, that's going to be the way to do it, because they really can't stop people pushing the subscribe button. Was hashtags early on, and they're propagated out based on your hashtags. They got rid of that algorithm, and then they started going to a more artificial intelligence algorithm. And then they had the big shakedown where they cater more to companies, and then they were making you hit the bell icon came in then to force you to opt in. But then even then, they were taking your memberships away from you, or if you weren't a legitimate YouTube user. So you would either be unsubscribed to someone else or whatever. And so it's evolved. And so now I think they're critically going after news type channels, particularly ones that are dealing with conservatism. But to get around that, you simply just need to collaborate with other YouTubers, and then that gets you over the hump, because you're all sharing your own audiences. So, if I have 5,000 subscribers and Kiros has 10,000 subscribers and someone has 30,000 subscribers, next thing you know, we're sharing the same audience and we're collecting it and we're doing it. And that builds momentum, and also allows you to build other platforms outside of YouTube, because really the way to do it is to use YouTube as a platform and then push off on other areas, because YouTube could kick you out. So that's kind of the strategy. So to have even Patreon isn't safe anymore. But as Rumble gets up to speed, as some of the other ones get more sustainable, right now YouTube still pays pretty well. They just do. They have a lot of and if you play by the rules so far, you're okay. But I agree, shadow banning is definitely I think a reality in YouTube. So Ravens fan. Okay. Oh, honestly, yeah, that's probably true too. Yeah, she hasn't posted in a while too, so that's probably true. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, just going through these things here. All right, I'm gonna stop here and I'm gonna keep going forward. Thank you, Kier, for that. Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing, Kira. I mean, straight up, right? Here's the deal. I saw your video. I thought it was awesome. And what it really was your intro really caught my attention. I said, this is her fourth video, and she's got like already a professional intro that was like going like, it was like, if you watch the video, it's like, does like a 360. I'm like, how do you do that? It's pretty cool. I'm like, wow, I still know how you did that. So that's pretty sweet. Anyway, that's kind of what I did. And when I saw your video content, I was like, okay, she's on point. Reach out to her. And I reach out to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't get back to me. So you reached back to me, so that was cool. So that's how it worked out. I'm glad you reached back to me. So awesome. All right, cool. So let me get back to this thing here. I don't want to go too much longer. Wow, that's almost an hour already. All right, cool. I'm going to wrap this up. I have something interesting to say toward the end here. All right, so let's get into this joy. So So Tim Scott did the first thing about, okay, the whole civic nationalism, all that stuff, and why, we need to be all together, and why leftist agenda isn't going to work because we want to be together. So then he talks about part two of what I'm trying to say is, okay, well, I've been called a Uncle Tom and the N-word by leftists, I think he's a leftist, and progressives or liberals. Cool. He said progressives and liberals. And yeah, that's same here. And so I've been called the N-word outside of black people with an ER and not an A, which that's what it is. Outside of black people calling me, just say what's up, whatever. Probably about maybe 10 times in my life, maybe. And I don't know what their political affiliation was because a lot of this was when I was a kid. So, but as an adult, they were all liberals. They were all liberals. In fact, one guy, I remember this. I was at a bar outside, and I had a young Republican group I was leading. I was president of my local chapter. And we're talking whatever, and it was the election year. This is 2012. No. Yes, 2012. And we just knew Romney was going to win, right? I mean, because Romney was killing it. He was killing it. I mean, his ratings were going down the tank. He'd gone against everything he said he was going to do. He was becoming mean and whatever. He was, the whole thing it was terrible, right? We knew Romney was going to win. And this guy told me, he said, Romney's going to lose. Yeah, I said, whatever. And then he called me the N-word. I'm like, seriously, dude? And we were having a good conversation too, but he didn't know I was a Republican to that point. I'm like, okay, that's okay. So whatever. No, I'm sorry. No, he didn't call. He called me boy. That's what it was. He called me boy. I'm sorry. It was an N-word. He said, look here, boy. Let me tell you this, whatever. So he's a liberal. He was like one of these people, whatever. So I was like, okay, dude, whatever. White guy. So Tim Scott. All right. So yeah. So that's the reality. Okay. And so here you have this thing, and going back to what Mark said earlier, you said it right early on. See if I can pull it up again. You did a good job with that. Nope, that's the wrong one. Nope. I probably won't find it. Let me see. Where's it at? I probably lost it. I lost it. Anyway, he went on to say, look, you guys will call me racist, you're liberals, you're progressives. And what happens? You have Twitter having a trend of the hashtag Uncle Tim, a racial slur, on their channel, and it didn't get removed for hours. And I have a shot here, and I'll get back to Joy in a second here. So let me remove this one here so you guys can read this comment here. Sorry. All right, good. So Molly, this is from I think the Western Journal, I believe, or I'm sorry, for the Federalist, I think .com. Says Twitter is choosing to trend a racist attack from the left on Senator Tim Scott, the black senator. I can't talk. The black Republican senator from South Carolina. Okay. So then she goes on to say a little bit later, she says Twitter is still out here going out of its way to make racist attacks against GOP Senator Tim Scott go viral. Let me get rid of these banners here. All right. Apparently, they want him to suffer for the crime of upstaging Biden via a highly effective speech. Disgusting. And, really with that particular tweet there, I think what she's saying is correct. They didn't want they didn't like the fact that he was going against what Biden said, but I think it was deeper than that. I think it was deeper to the fact that they can't have a black person doing that. They can't have a black conservative doing that. Because again, you have to understand, and trust me, I was one of these people. So unfortunately, I think like these people. So give you some insight on what I was like. Okay, I was at one point in the circles of black nationalists. I hung around a bunch of we call them ROI. I'm sorry, FOI, Fruit of Islam. The what do you call those guys? Nation of Islam. I was never Muslim. I was never down like that because I was a Christian. But when you're in that little Afrocentric circle, in college, whatever, went to black university, you're going to black classes, you're in black fraternity, and all this and that. These books and this and that, being indoctrinated with all this humanism stuff. So I understand their mentality. I understand when they would be approached by a conservative to tell them something, how we would respond, how we were trained to respond when someone said, this and this and that. We would say, oh, well, if it's a problem, then we would say, if it's in Africa, it was dealing with the colonialism in Africa because that was what white man did in Africa. And if it's here in America, it had to do with the Middle Passage, it had to do with the slave trade. So one or the other, we had our bases covered. So if you say, well, look at Africa, it's all screwed up there. Well, that's the white man doing it because of colonialism. Well, what happened about America? Well, that's the white man doing it over here because of slave trade in the Middle Passage. So we had it covered there, and then you go to all the different things with Nile Valley, civilization, all that, Egypt, all kind of stuff like that. It was just really, really convoluted. None of it really made sense, but it was kind of cool in some ways. But the fact of the matter is, it was not Christian. It was not realistic. It was just in the ether of nonsense, quite frankly. It was just what it was. And so what happens is when you have a black person speak like that, they really can't afford to have him change minds and opinions because they want you to think that these people are totally token sellouts, that they're only up there because they're there because they've been pushed onto the stage by the white masters, and that the white masters have Ku Klux Klan outfits in their closets. That's what these people think. They think that they're all inherently racist, and that's where this 1619 Project comes from. It comes from the inherent belief that America was founded in hatred and anger, and what that does is it exonerates all of their sins. It exonerates all of the tribes in Africa that happen to be doing all the selling and trading. I mean, how do you think they were able to get people to come across the Middle Passage? You think they just walked in there and said, hey, guys, I'm putting it? No, they had to have help. They had to have help. And so in African tribes sold them to other tribes, and they got sold to other settlers coming in, and they got shipped over. It was a cooperative effort. So, that excuses all of that nonsense. It excuses all of that sin that was going on in Africa. And so they want to raise it up in a way that can exonerate them from any accountability, which is all this is really about, allowing them to reinvent history and allowing them to replace that history with whatever they want, which is Marxism, communism, whatever it is. So I hope that makes sense. I mean, I hope I didn't go too off on the cuff there, but that's essentially what they believe. And so that's why I think they came after Tim Scott so much, because they can't have him doing that. They can't have him stepping out of line. And like I said before, with black people really, really doing their best to, for many, many years, doing their best to vote almost monolithically towards the Democrat Party, they didn't have to do much work. All they had to do was every 4 years just stir up something and then get the masses riled up, and then they would vote. But then you have something like Biden come along and no progress come along, and Obama come along after 8 years of doing absolutely nothing for the black community. You have people like, Charlemagne, the lower G guy, basically telling Biden, dude, shut up, man. You're tripping, dude. What are you talking about? We see through your crap, man. These people who are leftists, who are black, are coming to grips with this. They're realizing, okay, I might not vote Democrat, but I might not vote Republican, but I definitely don't want to vote Democrat either. And see, that's their problem. Their problem is this. The problem is we don't really even need black people to vote Republican. We need them to vote Libertarian. We need them to vote something else. Green Party, anything. Anything but Democrat hurts the Democrat Party by omission, because they have to have it. I don't care who they vote for, as long as it's not a Democrat, because they still need that, which is why they're pushing so hard for the border crisis. They want as many people to come in here so they can subjugate them and get them set aside. And I like to say to people, the Democrats simply want to kick black people to the back of the bus so they can replace them with illegal immigrants. That's it, because they know the gig is up. The margins aren't there enough for them to win major elections anymore. They use COVID for the reason they use COVID. For that very reason, because they were gonna get trounced, and they absolutely knew it. When they saw those 300 counties in the Midwest, they knew they were done. They were done, and they knew it. So, in my opinion, it was already in place of what they were going to try and do. And maybe they knew about COVID or not. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't. But any opportunity they had, they were going to jump on it and pounce on it. And that's exactly what they did. So, anyway, let me see any comments here. I feel like I talked too much. Let me see. See you, Mark. Okay. Oh yeah, they definitely, man. Yeah, dude, man, I can talk about Pat McCrory and Durham and governor of North Carolina. I mean, or how about the guy's name in the senator in Las Vegas in Nevada, Harry Reid, I believe. That was ridiculous. I mean, that was so obvious. And then look at the runoff in Georgia. I mean, come on, man. That's why I was like, come on, guys. I agree, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%. Agree, dude. I was so frustrated after that election. I was so frustrated because, I was okay with the L because that happens. I was not okay with the fraud. Okay, I wasn't okay with the fact that they literally. I gotta be careful how I do this on this channel. I don't want to try and get my channel revoked. Let me put it this way. All right, so election night. All right, I was in my war room, whatever, and I was live streaming, whatever, on Facebook. You go back and look at my time. You can go look at my profile on Facebook. You can see I would put what's happening, bam, 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 bam. I had like all kind of monitors going, and Trump was killing it, dude. He was crushing it. Even states that we weren't sure he was going to be doing well in, he was ahead in just about every single area. And we're talking about like he was killing it. And all of a sudden, the New York Times stopped their ticker. They shut it down. Shut it down. If you go back and look at 2016, look at the Young Turks. All right, that's a fun video to watch, where they basically go through that night, and they were talking about the ticker, and the ticker was very, very accurate. It would say, okay, he's pretty much going to win this state. Well, Trump was projected to win every single state up to that point. It was ridiculous. When they shut it down, I was like, uh-oh, here it comes. Because that happened first. And then about an hour later, you can look at my profile. You can look at go to Facebook, go to my profile, and look in there, and you'll see the ticker went down. Next thing you know, there's a fire or explosion somewhere in Georgia. And then one more thing happened where it was Arizona. It was Arizona? Yeah. Those two went down, and then they just stopped counting for the night. I was pissed, dude. I was pissed. You could just see it happening. So anyway. Yes, I agree. Kira, he would be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When we do a private chat, I would totally be off the cuff. I won't care anymore. But I want to keep this channel healthy. Okay, let's see. How does communism or Marxism help poor people of color? Oh, sorry, people of color. I'm sorry, people of color. I would say it doesn't. But you would have to define what you mean by help. I would say on the surface, just our way we interpret the word help, I'd say it doesn't help at all. The thing about that sort of thing is it creates two classes of people, right? It gets rid of the middle class. And so at some point in time, the fun's over. Okay, the fun's over. There's no incentives for anything. If you look at Venezuela, it's a perfect example. We did a video on that, where essentially the government came in because they didn't like the fact that there were private companies making money. So you have a mom and pop shop, they're doing well, they have supply chain come in, sell the goods, go out, make a profit, pay the distributors, pay their employees, everybody's happy, making a profit. With government, when some of that money, they didn't think it was fair that a private company could make that. They thought, well, if they can do it, we can do it. Well, no, you can't, because you're getting your supplies, you're forcing supplies at a cheaper rate. Next thing you know, they can't, your distributors can't make any money, so they go out of business. There's no one to supply you any goods anymore. So they have anything to sell, and people are starving. And so they basically ran everything to the ground by trying to operate it from a government standpoint. And so when you have government intervention, that's what happens, because the government doesn't create anything. The money comes from taxpayers. It comes from the people. Or comes from other countries like opioids, like North Korea. I mean, if you want to go there. But even then, greed sets in. They're not going to distribute that money up to the people. No, why should they? Even though they probably could. Even though they probably could with the exports of the illegal stuff they do out there in North Korea and other countries that are off the grid. So I would say maybe initially they may help people initially, but at the end of the day, it's going to be bad news for everyone because historically speaking, it leads to bad things. It leads to death. I mean, communism and Marxism killed over 100 million people in the 20th century. And so, it's horrible stuff. Any opinion on that, I'd be glad to hear. That's just my perspective. I'd be glad to hear anyone else's take on that. Yeah, it does that too. Yep. And here's the thing with that, Kira. If you want to get to a spiritual basis here, I'm going to kind of talk from a biblical framework here. And even from our Bible, even from our Constitution, not the Constitution, but the Statue of Liberty, yearning to breathe free. I mean, that there's a sense of liberty that we feel, or a sense of a God-given, what's the word? Desire to be free, and to live for him. And to be prosperous and to provide for your family and to live a good life and all those things. And that's going to be there regardless. That's what you see happening in Hong Kong. That's what we saw happen in Tiananmen Square. It pops up, it rises up out of the ashes, out of nowhere. Even in countries that are being persecuted, you still see that spark come up, in the face of horrible odds. The human spirit's still there because it's God-given. You can't take that. And I think it really irritates the left. It irritates them so much that's there and they can't do anything about it. They can't take our spirit. And I think that really, really irritates them because they just can't do anything about it. So came in late. Hey, El Trampo Custom Dioramas. Hope I said that correctly. El Trampo, this I'm not sure if you're I don't want to misgender you, but this person here is awesome. Comments on our page all the time, have good discussions, and very intelligent. I really, really enjoy the comments. And I literally read every single comment. I still have about, I'd say probably have about maybe 80 to 100 to go, maybe more. And I read them. So I actually reply to all of them too. So take some time to get through them all, but it really keeps me inspired and encouraged. And I would say only about 5% are negative. So that's pretty cool. And I know Kira, you and I talked about this as well. How that can be helpful and inspiring. I think we did a live show on toxic people. That's a pretty fun show. We did it in a family feud format. That was pretty cool. So let me see here. What do we got here? Kim and Lake, good evening. You see Mike Lindell on Jimmy? No, I did not. Oh, hold on. Mike Lindell was on Jimmy Kimmel? I did not see that. I got to see that. Was that recent? Let me see here. Keep going. Mike probably. Well, I got to check that out. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here we go. Well, Jimmy, you know what? I saw something that the founder, I didn't read her post. This is the one that came out when she was, it was discovered that she was buying upwards of $3.4 million of real estate. And I didn't read the clip or read the statement. I just read the byline, and it said to the effect of, she doubled down saying that, yes, I'm a Marxist and I'm basically trying to feed my family. So I don't know if that's accurate representation of that, but to your point there, I just don't understand how anyone can really be a Marxist. I really don't. And by the way, I'm glad you brought that up. I am going through a Jordan Peterson video on YouTube. It came out this week. It's Jordan Peterson's critique to Marxism. Oh, I lost it. So I was like, I didn't have time to really watch it. So I have a notepad. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to take notes. And I may do a response video to that. But he's such a smart dude, right? So I feel if I can watch videos of Thomas Sowell and Jordan Peterson, and I can basically, kind of say what they're saying. I mean, they're smarter than I am, way smarter than I am. But if I can at least get an inkling of what they're saying, I feel that I'm on the right track. And he was just really, really honest. He was like, look, He's like, no, if you want to understand Marxism, you got to read it. You got to figure out what they're saying and find out what the objections are. And then he said, I found way more objections than I found whatever. And he said, this is like, he says more typos in this than I've ever seen before, even though, yes, it wasn't meant to be a literature. It's meant to be a revolutionary starter. But he was really, really good. So I got to the first 10 minutes of it. I'm going to watch it's about an hour long. So I will know better about that because I'm not really that familiar with Marxism, other than the fact of Karl Marx was pretty much, he was kind of like he was not a good dude, man. He was just not he was just a loser, man. Karl Marx was a loser. I'm sorry. He was a loser. So was Darwin, by the matter. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me see here. But anyway, to your point, they must believe it helps. I guess it believes it helps them. I guess they feel that if they can have the power base, if they're in the power base, then it helps them, but it doesn't help the others. So I don't get how they understand why that's a good thing. I guess if you throw out human nature and throw out the human condition, the sin nature, then maybe Marxism makes sense. If you think we're living in a world like Star Trek, that we're getting bigger, better, and stronger, then sure, Marxism might work because we're going to end up one day having replicators. We're going to fly across the galaxy, and there's going to be no money, no need for money, no need for envy, because we're getting better, like John Lennon said, right? If you believe that, then Marxism, I guess, intellectually and theoretically to you makes sense. But if you have a biblical framework, a total depravity framework, or just a basic knowledge of good and evil, of people do bad stuff, then Marxism doesn't make any sense because you're going to have problems. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson had that problem. Jefferson was like, look, he wanted to be more of a globalist mindset. He wanted to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not impressionism. Oh gosh. Anyway, he was really looking at mankind as that we're getting better, we're stronger, we're looking for, what's that word? It'll come to me in a second. It begins with R. Anyway, but John Adams was saying, who was a lawyer, was like, look, we have to make laws to protect ourselves from ourselves because I don't trust ourselves. And there was that thing going there, back and forth. So it comes to your framework. And I think they have a proper framework from a human condition standpoint. So that would be my take on that. I hit go here. Sorry. Liberals, you backfired. I bet it did. Yeah, I bet it did. His documentary on the election was really, really good, by the way. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Like Star Trek. And by the way, I love Star Trek, by the way. I love Star Trek. I mean, at least not the new stuff, not the STD, Star Trek Discovery. I'm talking about the old stuff. So let me go through these. I'm gonna see here. Critical race theory. I don't know that question to that. Maybe someone else can answer that. I would guess it is. I don't know much about critical race theory. I really don't. I really don't know anything about it other than the fact that it sounds stupid. And that it's a revisionist history of what we're trying to do here in this country. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the way, Jordan Peterson talks about critical thinking too, which actually challenged me. So he actually challenged me to think more critically and kind of what you're saying too, Kira, to look at something and then look at it and say if it's, does it still hold true? If it doesn't, you can take some of it, or if not, you can throw it out. And he was being really, really honest in this discussion, which I really appreciate, Jordan, because he really tries to be as fair and honest as he can be, without having any pretext. So I think he's pretty awesome. 2 minutes ago, red pill. I'm going to some of these. Yeah, Jordan's awesome. Sorry guys, I'm going fast. I'm really surprised he had him on the show. I think he probably thought he was going to make fun of him and be able to have a soundbite and maybe try and destroy him. Let's see. It's all JP videos. What's JP? Oh, Jordan Peterson video. Oh yeah, you saw that too? Yeah. I can't wait to watch that actually. Jimmy Kimmel is terrible. Thanks, Kyle. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Now, yeah, I saw a documentary on Karl Marx too, and he still, man, I was like, hey, come on, man. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think Kira has the she has a really good foundation on this, because Kira, if you don't know, is really good, sound on her knowledge of the state of Israel, the Jewish religion, the Jewish faith, the people. And so I know enough to be dangerous. I like studying the Yom Kippur War. I love studying the 7-Day War. I love studying, the Old Testament history. But I know just enough just to get by. But they have a fascinating history. I remember when Ishak Rabin was killed and how horrible that was. I remember all the incursions that happened in the 90s. Arafat would come in and then they'd push him out, and it was just so much better than it was then. But they're still shooting rockets over there, and no one's doing anything about it. And if Israel does anything in retaliation, next thing you know, they're the ones that are the bad guys. It really just pisses me off. I mean, literally in the 90s, early 2000s, you have a bus attack or a cafe blow up in Israel every week. It was horrible. I mean, terrible. And so then Israel would come in, and then they would do incursions. They would go into occupied territory, and then the world would, oh my God, what's going on? But you know what happened? That stopped the attacks. It stopped the attacks. Every time they pull back, what happened? Another bus bombing, whatever. And Arafat's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just a peace broker. No, you're not. You're being basically you're not in control of the situation. Either you were actually in control of what's happening, or you're not. Either way, you're being very ineffective, because Hamas and those organizations were controlling him, and he was able to control that, and they were just running roughshod. And it's just a frustrating thing to see that happen, and to see President Trump do what he did in his 4 years, the accomplishments he was able to make, and to get hardly any credit from the administration that we have now is really heartbreaking. And Israel, I think they did that thing again with, I think they did something with a centrifuge again, because they did a centrifuge attack on Iran about 10 years ago. And I believe they hit another nuclear facility as well with a virus. They're protecting their own, man. And the IDF, the international, what's it called? The Israeli Defense, I'm not sure what the F stands for. They kick some serious butt. All right, they're good. All right, they can take care of themselves. But it'd be nice to have some help from people across the pond, namely the United States. But anyway, I'm getting off on subjects. But anyway, Kira is really, really good with that. Reach out to her if you want to have any questions with that, because she would really get you on the right road there. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I saw that. I'm not sure which one you saw, but it's just weird, man. The guy's just weird. I agree. We should do a live stream on Israel and anti-Semitism. I really love the stories, the war stories of like the Yom Kippur War, where they really caught Israel, they really caught them like by surprise. And Israel was really in danger of being overrun. And so they have civilian workforce. And so they were able to get tanks out, but not just enough. And there was one early in the battle, they were outnumbered, but the tanks by a lot. And so instead of going full frontal, they would actually put one tank up over the ridge, fire a shot, and come back down. It's like only 10 tanks, but they would bring one up, bring it down. And so the other side thought that it was a trick. So they held off for several hours, so the reinforcements came up. So they were able to run into a stalemate. It's just really, that country is really fascinating. Going back to 1948 and all that. Yeah, Kira, I would love to do a discussion on that. I would love to do that. I don't know what to believe. Forces. Thank you, Kira. It is forces. I don't trust anything right now in the Biden administration. Period. I just don't. I'm going for about hour 19. I got to those things real quick. So let me just say this real quickly. So I guess we basically proved or talked about Tim Scott and the fact that that the left basically proved their case, right? So here's Tim Scott saying leftists and liberals and progressives are calling me the N-word and they're calling me Uncle Tom's. And what happens? Twitter and the progressives out there turn it right around and prove him correct. And Twitter did get rid of the tweet and he blocked it, but it seemed like they were letting it go for as long as they wanted to let it go. And so I'm going to wrap this video up with a couple of points here that I want to say. And this is kind of a little bit out there. This is kind of my thoughts, my stream of thought kind of process here. And that is this, is that going back to Black women being a key faction of the Democrat coalition, they're probably the most loyal, based at around 95% loyalty. Trump doubled that this time. I think he got like 8% of Black women. I think that's right, which is double we got last time. And I think that's really causing the Democrats to freak out. And so I think what all this is about, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this, I think what this is all about is simply they want to get their slaves back. And I hate to put it in terms like that. And I'm putting it in the framework of the fugitive slave law. Okay, the fugitive slave law was a several. It was an act. It was several laws, which basically said, in a nutshell, said that if your slave runs away across in the free territory, you're able to go across the state lines and grab them back because they're personal property. And so, and I really don't want to get. This could sound really, really bad, but these are Democrats, right? These are Democrats, and they were losing their slaves. They were running away, and they were running away from the plantation. And so, if you kind of get my frame of thought here, they were walking away or running away from the plantation, right? The Brexit movement, the walkaway movement, and so I think this is about. And I've run campaigns. I've run numbers. I've canvassed areas. I've taken like year campaigns and looked at maps and redrew them if I had to determine how many votes we need to get for this precinct, for this whatever area. It's all strategic. It's a numbers game. And I think they just don't have the position right now where they have the voting base to replace the Black vote yet. So they have to do whatever they can do to maintain power. And I think part of this is to jump up to racism in a way that's going to get Black women to come back. And one way to do that is where they really are the most passionate about is protecting their children on the street, which makes sense. So whenever there's a police shooting, it's Black women, and rightfully so. And so that's what it does. And if you can force them to believe, or if you can get them to believe that it's these cops doing it, and have everyone doing that, the next thing you know, you're going to have your voting base back again. So you're not going to get that 8% anymore. You come back in their camp. So basically, it's like a virtual fugitive slave law. Now, I hate to put it in that kind of harsh, negative, dark terms, but how else could I put it? I mean, how else could I put it? I mean, they're Democrats, and so I don't know. Anyway, and so my next point is this. Again, this is kind of stream of thought. I think a lot is that. What the Republicans tried to do in the South was to counteract the notion, and this is what Tim Scott was trying to do, I believe, was to appeal to the moral base of society. And what I mean by that is Martin Luther King, okay? He understood, he felt that it was important for the country to see what was happening. And Gandhi did the same thing. Okay, he got this from Gandhi as well, to let the people see the atrocities, so that people could, so that people's inner souls could be hurt and be touched by it. And in doing so, that could lead a peaceful movement. So he wanted them to see the hoses, the Bull Connors, all that, the segregation going on, the atrocities, the dogs and all that stuff going on. That way, people in the South who are moral people would see that and reject that. And so what happened when the way their South turned from mostly blue Democrat, whatever you want to call it, I guess the blue Democrat, to red Republican. And I've got videos on this. This goes back to Lee Atwater, who was a campaign manager for Reagan. He talked about it. I did a whole review of his infamous speech, infamous talk he did where he used the N-word several times. And they say, hey, look, he was a racist. Nah, that's not what he was. It was out of context. I proved that in my video on my channel. But anyway, he was basically saying that racism was dying. All right. Going around to the 60s, racism wasn't becoming an issue that much anymore. People were finding out, well, you know what? I guess, this is going to, Black people are going to be here to stay. So we're going to have to figure out how to live with them. And it wasn't becoming a big issue in terms of voting rights, in terms of voting issues. You know what it was? It makes perfect sense. It was the Russians. It was the Cold War. It was the Bay of Pigs. It was the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? People were afraid that they were going to get nuked. So racism kind of went out the bandwagon there. So anyone who came up with a national defense policy, came up with policies dealing with security and upper mobility, that became the platform for Nixon, and that was replicated with Reagan as well. And so as more people were coming down, young people, white people, they were coming down. Nixon and Buchanan had a strategy called the Southern Strategy. The Southern Strategy was a strategy to let people in the South know, hey, I know you may have voted Democrat before, but the Democrats, they're evil. They're not good people. They don't have the right interest in heart. We're the party that's pro-America because the Russians are over there. We're also going to be for lower taxes. We're going to be for self-defense and we're going to be for national defense. And that was the issue of the day. That was the issue of the day, and that started to turn the South red. And it wasn't through. It was down through the peripheral parts of the states. It was like Florida down to Tennessee, down lower Tennessee, whatever. It wasn't in the deep heart yet. It wasn't in Mississippi's and Alabama's yet. It was in the peripheral parts, which is what Nixon was campaigning on, called the Sun Belt. And so that was all there. And then Reagan basically duplicated that in many, many ways. And Carter helped him out too, because Carter did his thing by basically ignoring the South because he thought he had the South locked up. He didn't. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off here, but I'm trying to say that this whole situation with turning to people who have turn to people who you feel are going to come on your side because of a moral depravity. That's what Tim Scott was trying to do. He's saying, look, we're gonna push forth this way because this is the right thing to do for America. And I put this up here on the screen here. This is a scene from the Civil Rights Movement. This is the scene that MLK wanted the country to see, and it horrified people. It's the same thing that happened in the Civil War. When those pictures came from Antietam, when they were able to finally see what happened on the Civil War, the whole aspect of the war changed. Vietnam the same way. And so those images are very powerful. And that's what I think the Republican Party needs to do, is we need to continue to cater to the people and the ideas that make this country great. And I think what's going to end up happening is, this is the last thing I'm going to say here, people are going to gravitate to what's right. And I don't like using this reference, but it's still true, even though I don't like this person. I don't prescribe to this person. But in the movie Malcolm X, okay, it was Elijah Muhammad. You saw with Denzel Washington, Malcolm X. Elijah Muhammad was the leader of the Nation of Islam. There's a scene in the movie that I never forgot. And it applies not just because whatever, it's just true. He said basically, he basically took a glass of water on the table, told Malcolm, hey Malcolm, he said, Malcolm, if you take this glass of water and you put like coffee in it, whatever, you make it dirty, the person you give it to will drink it if he's thirsty, right? But then he took the glass and threw it away and poured a pure glass of water in it with clean water. He said, but if you give them the clean glass, he would choose the clean glass every time. And that's what I think we can do, right? We can just show America for what it is and why it's great. And I think maybe I'm just a idealist, whatever. Maybe I'm just a bleeding heart, romantic patriot. But I think ultimately that's probably the best way to go. But we need to also stand up too, because we got to fight back as well. We can't just sit back and just kumbaya. So you got to do both. And I think Tim Scott will need to balance that. But I think there's also a place for Trump. I don't want to see Tim Scott as president. I just don't. I think he's an establishment. I don't think he'll be adhering to donors and backers and stuff like that that'll compromise him. But I think he's got a good place in the party. I think he definitely is a solid place to go. I want Trump back in office. I just do. I just do. Or someone who has his gravitas, even like Ron DeSantis, someone, because these guys, these liberals, man, they play hard, man. They do not mess around. They don't play games. And until we learn how to fight like them, we're never really going to get ahead. But I'll tell you one thing. The Democrat Party is really in deep trouble. They're in deep trouble. I've been saying this for a while. I know you say, Carl, but they're really in their death throes. And we had two chances to knock them out. The first time was the midterm. back in 2018. That could be a knockout blow. It should be a knockout blow. And then, of course, 2020. So, and so right now, they see the handwriting on the wall because they've taken their positions and moved themselves to the 30% tile of all issues. They're no longer in the middle of any issues anymore. And so, they can't win an election straight up. Not that they ever really could anyway. But that's where we are. All right, so I'm done. I think I said everything I want to say. Let me see if I got more comments here. Thank you guys for hearing me ramble. I know I got a lot of, looks like everyone's still here. I think everyone's gone. We've got 4 people on. Okay, cool. So no more comments here. All right. Let me make sure there's no more comments. I think everything was good. All right, so cool. So I hope that was good. That was a rant. Definitely was a rant. And so next week, just to recap, we're going to have Kira and Angel. Kira's up in New York. We're going to do a taping of a Second Amendment forum and working on the format with that. Start seeing some announcements for that pretty soon, official announcements. And so if you want to be actually part of that stream, yeah, I'll leave a link out there. And what will happen is the first 6 will actually be able to be part of the room. I'll see them down there. I won't add you to the stream, but I'll just see up to 6. But then after that, I think you can have as many as you want. They can see it, but they just can't actually, we can't add them at the same time. So, so yeah, I think that's how it's going to look. All right, so if there's no more questions, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to once again thank everyone for coming on. I want to thank Jimmy, thank Kira, of course, El Chombo, Mark, 09A-Team, Ravens Fan 1, all of our sponsors. Thank you so much as well for what you do. You guys are awesome. Love you guys. And I'm going to end it here by saying, stay cool, stay awesome, and I hope you have a great weekend. And I'll check you guys next time.